Hello, here we are in the second part of the video, where we are exploring the interface of Animate and the main tools. In part 1, the video ended at the point where we had reviewed all the tools on the left side. And now we continue further with the other options, tools and menus. So what's also interesting is to see what's happening here on the right side and all of these available options. Some of them, as we can clearly see, are quite similar to what we already have presented on the left-hand side, but a very large and significant part of them are indeed quite different. They change depending on which tool we're currently using. As you can see, when I select the black arrow, they change and it has completely different properties with which we can change the main properties of the tool. For now, I will only be showing you the primary brush tool, because that is indeed the essential and most important instrument we will be utilizing extensively in the upcoming and subsequent steps of this process. As you can see, you have the brush color here, which, as we said, can be changed from here. That's why I mentioned that it's quite inconvenient. Some of the functions here on the right are repeated on the left. Here we have the color transparency. When it's at 100%, the color is solid. The more you decrease the percentage, the more transparent the color you use becomes. For now, we're drawing at 100%, so that's something that it's good to know this for when you need it, so you can use it when the right moment comes. Here we have the brush shape. We are currently drawing with the standard round brush, but you can change it from here if you want a more interesting or artistic brush. This is specifically for adding things. A brush that you can create yourself with your own properties, whether it will be at an angle like this, what shape it will have here, how much, whether it will be round, flatter or super flat. This is something you can set here. And in this way you can make your own custom brush. This is where you control it. The size, the thickness of the brush. Here you can also easily and securely save it, right? And use this brush if you decide to save it as a permanent asset. The brush you create, can also inherently have a preset size. Here, you will find a minimum size setting, meaning the smallest possible size that if this is the maximum here, you set what the minimum of the brush should be. So if you don't want it to draw too thin and you want it to start a bit thicker, even if you don't press hard with the pen on the tablet, you can control that from here and set this option. This way you won't have such a big variation between thin and thick if you want to have the option to go from very thin to very thick, depending on how much pressure you apply to the brush and the pen on the tablet. Here you can set one as the minimum, and here you can set 35, and this way you'll start from much thinner, but when you press, the line will become as thick as you've set it here. So this is also something that could be useful when you're drawing with the brush. Here accordingly you also have how smooth the line made by the brush should be at 100%, even if you draw a slightly wavy line. The software automatically, as you can see, calculates and smooths it out. If we reduce it to 0, basically whatever you draw, that's what you get. The software won't improve the smoothness of your line in any way. So here there are a few checkboxes. One particular checkbox is designed to increase the overall size and dimensions. That is to keep the brush size. I'll set it to 100% with smoothing, but when the checkbox is active, that means that no matter what percentage it's at, whether you zoom in or out while working, the thickness of the line stays the same. If we uncheck this box, you'll see what the difference is. The thickness of the brush is preserved. but it stays the same regardless of how close or far you are. And in this way, when we zoom in or out, it appears to have a different thickness. So if you want to, sometimes you genuinely need to meticulously draw a much smaller, more intricate detail, which absolutely requires you to work at a significantly higher zoom level. And after you carefully draw it and complete that specific task, you might then want to zoom out and continue drawing a detail that doesn't require you to be so close. Zoomed in, and yet you still really want to fully preserve the brush's overall thickness, right? Is what we're looking at. This is the better option in this case to make sure that you won't have to change the brush thickness depending on how close or far away you're drawing. It's also important to know what the second checkbox does, and above all, it's not mandatory to keep it enabled, but I personally find it much more convenient that way. This option makes the brush thickness match that of the eraser. When you select the eraser, all the properties you've set for the brush are transferred to the eraser as well. This is useful so that when you set the properties of the brush and then later select the eraser, if you want to erase something, you don't have to change the options for the eraser as well. You know that once they're set, they remain unchanged between brush and eraser. We will talk about this particular option a little bit later on because it is also closely related to some other important aspects. Options and tools in the software for more advanced users, but for now we'll leave it, since in the next 12 videos at least we definitely won't need it. So that's it for the properties of the tools. Now here you have a few more menus. If you don't currently see them, you can easily access them from the main window drop-down menu and then bring them out from here, making them readily available. I've already pulled them out because I've worked with the software before, so I've brought out the ones that are most important to me. Of course, you can also close them one by one if you don't need them. Besides the tool properties, you have assets, where there are some templates created in the software which only that's how they could be useful to you. For educational purposes, to bring some out. Let's pull one out, for example. If you want to experiment to create some kind of scene. You also have sets. Some, right? Props here. But if you want to create some kind of scene without doing anything, just to take things from here, right? The idea of the channel and the videos is to show you how to make these things yourself, not to rely on ready-made ones, but you can experiment if you're interested or check some out, how the movement is made. And then maybe try to replicate it. So here again we have color. I don't know why I brought it out, but from many places I can manipulate the color, and line is something that if you already have something drawn, you can easily give it an automatic stage and then utilize these convenient buttons to automatically and precisely center the object if you specifically need it to be positioned right in the very middle of the entire scene or to completely fill the available space. The entire canvas. Or move it to one end or the other, as here already. Mathematically, the software calculates it, so it can move the object for you, for example, exactly to the edge or so that it fills it precisely. The screen, or so that it's absolutely centered in any of the directions. So for now, this isn't something we need. but it's good to pay attention to it. Pay attention. So now it's where everything we draw but turn into so-called symbols, which again, I don't want to spend too much time and attention on, since this is something we will cover separately in another video, as it will be part of creating characters and will be followed by lessons on animation. But in reality, everything you create and then turn into a so-called symbol, as I said, which we'll talk about later, goes into the library and isn't lost, even if you delete it. It's not lost, but it does disappear. Yes, I deleted it from here by accident. If you delete it from the timeline, here it stays saved in the library and you can pull it out at any time. So everything you create in these symbols, everything you draw, is stored in the library, and regardless of whether you have it in the timeline, it remains here in the library unless you select it from here and delete it. Then it's gone. It disappears forever. The transform menu is primarily based on this particular transform, which is located right here in the interface. Here you have a few additional options. So here you can rotate the object by entering values, whereas over there everything is done by hand. And you can't control the value if you want to. To rotate this rectangle exactly 45 degrees, I can come here, enter 45, and it will rotate to 45 degrees or to whatever value I want. It's the same with it's tilting in one direction or the other. I can do it manually. But if I want exact values, I'll come here and change the values. So I can tilt or rotate it by an exact value. The same applies to the size. If I want to make it exactly twice as small, I'll come here, enter 50%, and it will become half the size. And always here. This icon needs to be active, because if it's inactive, then these values are independent of each other and don't change together. If I now enter 100% here, I'll increase only the width without the height, and then I'll have to come here and increase the height as well. And when it's enabled here, when I change one of the two values, the other number changes as well, right? Together. And that's it. That's everything about the options in the right part of the screen up here. There are a few more buttons I need to tell you about. When you press it, you can rotate the screen so that it's more comfortable for you when you're drawing something. So if you want to draw a more precise shape so you don't have to twist your hand, it's better to rotate the screen. That way you can follow the natural curve of your hand. So if you have already rotated the screen and want to return it to its original position, then you press center stage and everything goes back to how it was. Here we have a button that crops everything that goes outside the stage or outside the white canvas. If we have an object that goes beyond the white canvas and we want to ignore it so we don't see it, all we have to do is press here. It cuts off everything outside the white canvas and we only see the things that are inside. So here as well we have a drop-down menu where in addition to that we can set whatever percentage we want, exactly how much, zoom in or out to see everything that's happening here. We also have three other options One is fit to window, which means that when we press it, we see everything, meaning it all fits into the window. And even if we change things here, the timeline, drag it, because, you know, if we have dozens of layers, at some point we might need to see all the layers, but at the same time we might also need to see also the entire workspace. When we select fit window, it resizes according to how much space we've left here. If we've been working too zoomed in or too zoomed out and want to reset, we select show frame, and again, whatever space we have here for the workspace window, it fills up all this space. The difference with fit window is that if we change the space here, it doesn't change. And the other option is show, which basically, if you have something, but you need to turn off this option first. If we have something that goes outside the white canvas and we select show, it displays it for us. It zooms out enough to show absolutely everything that's been drawn, even things that go outside the white canvas. So these are the differences between the three options, and we also have several preset percentages: 1/4, half, 3/4, 100%, and 200%. So that's it for the top bar, and of course the drop-down menus. As the most important thing that as beginners you need to remember is that every so often it's a good idea to hit save, because after all, this is software, it's technology, anything can happen. Either the software, it might crash, something might freeze, or something might go wrong. It could close unexpectedly, or you could lose power. All sorts of unforeseen technical issues and disruptions can happen that, depending on the software, and to avoid losing your work after working all day without saving, what you should do is periodically press save, or in preferences there is an autosave feature, or rather an auto recovery option, where you can set how many minutes between saves. It will generate an auto recovery file for you, so if you forget to press save and say you set it to every 5 minutes, the software will automatically generate it every 5 minutes. An auto recovery, so if something happens and the software shuts down, you will have a file in which not everything will be lost, and in the worst case scenario you'll only go back as many minutes as you've set here. So here as well, there are thousands of other options which we will gradually go through over time in the lessons, depending on the level of complexity. For animation, we'll do whatever we need. There are some basic things which, as I mentioned here, besides save, you can also save your scene under a different name after that if you want. If you want to export a video, if you want to import video, audio, or some image into the scene from import, from edit, and so on. Well, that's it for this video. I hope it was useful to you. If I didn't explain something, let me know in the comments. If not, as I said, I will do it later. I'll explain a lot more, because even though I said at the beginning that it's simpler than other software, there are still many things to learn here as well. So goodbye for now from me, and I'll see you in the next video.